Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome again back to the Earth, or Mudfossil Gaia. So here is part 4 of Monster Slayer. There are actually 5 more monster stories that go along with this, you guys. Now, not every single one has a mud fossil type ending, but I think it's important to go ahead and tell the story because it's all part of the story, right? So I'm going to share with you these last few monsters that these hero twins slay. I'll take you into Google Earth, of course, and show you guys what I see. And then I will explain a little bit more of what I've learned through my research about just exactly who these hero twins could be, because they are known all over the world. On every continent they have stories of hero twins. And so, are they the same? Are they different? Are there many sets of twins? Is this like another consciousness, kind of like the Christ consciousness that keeps reincarnating? Maybe there are these sets of twins that, I don't know. So let me read these few stories to you, and we'll go explore a little bit more about who these guys could be. So next they go on to kill Kicking Monster. I'm not even going to try to pronounce those other 4 names. Okay, please forgive me. I'll call him Kicker, Kicking Monster. They also call him the one who kicks people down cliffs. Now, this is the guy I showed you in my video about the legend people, how they have those jinn with the faces on their chin or on their chests. So apparently this was a creature that actually existed here in the Americas, and they also knew about this on the other side of the world because they drew pictures of them on the maps here in the Americas. Pretty interesting. So this guy has kind of a sad story. Apparently there was a time when the men and women lived separately from each other in the beginning. And when they were not living with each other, the women would satisfy themselves with pieces of nature, and from that, monsters were born. This was one of them. So let me tell you his story. He who kicks people down the cliff was among the many Ane, or alien gods, slain by Nyatnanskani. As with the rest of his brood, he was born from a human woman who, in the absence of men, had resorted to other means of stimulation. Kicking Monster was born at Sibinai Hotel, a high wall-like cliff. I believe they're actually referring to Navajo Mountain here. He had no head, with only a long pointed end where the head should be. His mother, disgusted at the monster she had born, put him in a hole in the cliff and sealed it with a stone. Kicking Monster survived anyway. As he grew, his hair grew into the rock, anchoring him fast. He sat in place next to a well-beaten trail, his legs folded up, and anyone who passed by would be immediately kicked and sent tumbling down the cliff. His children waited at the base of the cliff to dismember the offerings their father sent down. With 3 types of fruiting cactus growing nearby, a steady stream of victims was guaranteed. His spy was the turkey vulture. That was where Nyatnitsgani found him. The hero followed the trail to the top of the high cliff and beheld his enemy, much like a man in shape. Kicking Monster was leaning back inoffensively, pulling at his whiskers, but Nyatnitsgani kept his eye closely on him as he walked past. Sure enough, Kicking Monster kicked out suddenly, but Nyatnitsgani dodged the kick easily. "Why did you kick at me?" he asked the monster. "Oh, my grandchild," he said innocently. "I was tired and just wanted to stretch my legs." 4 times Nyatnitsgani passed by, and 4 times Kicking Monster missed. Then the hero grabbed his stone knife and struck him above the eyes, stabbing over and over again until he was sure the monster was dead. But the body remained attached to the cliff, the thick cedar root-like hairs holding it fast. So Nyatnitsgani had to chop through these as well before Kicking Rock Monster's body went tumbling down the same way many of his victims had. Immediately, Nyatnitsgani heard a cacophony of squabbling voices. "I want the eyes. The liver is mine. Give me an arm." The sound of Kicking Monster's children fighting over their father's body was a grim reminder of the fate Nyatnitsgani had escaped. The hero found another trail to the base of the cliff and beheld Kicking Monster's 12 hideous children, their father's blood still streaming from their mouths. Only the bones and scalp of Kicking Monster were left. Disgusted, Nyatnitsgani slew most of that vile brood. The survivors were spread, exiled, and depending on the narrative, may have been transformed into Rocky Mountain sheep, owls, box turtles, or birds of prey. Nyatnitsgani took Kicking Monster's scalp as a trophy and planted seeds in the surrounding area. So I did find the story about the bear, and though the ending does not have a mud fossil to go with it, I'm going to read you guys the story anyway. Sasnalkahai, I believe is how you say it. Bear that pursues, or tracking bear. And you can see from the size here, he's pretty big. The fearsome Sasnalkahai, the bear that pursues, was a monstrous bear that terrorized the Navajo people. As one of the Ine, Sasnalkahai was born from unnatural sexual practices. In this case, his fathers were a smooth stone and a leg sinew. He lived in a cross-shaped mountain cave at the Rock That Frightens. Once Sasnalkahai set on a hunt, his prey had no hope of escape. When Nyatnitsgani set out to slay Sasnalkahai, he carried yucca fruit in his left hand and hard oak twigs in his right hand. Those medicinal plants warded off Sasnalkahai's attentions. Eventually, Nyatnitsgani found the bear's head emerging from a hole. He inspected the east, south, and west entrances. When he got to the north, Sasnalkahai's head immediately withdrew and the bear headed for the south entrance. This time, Nayatnitsgani was waiting for him, and when Sasnakahai stuck his head out, Nayatnitsgani decapitated him. "You were a bad thing in life," proclaimed Nayatnitsgani to the head. "You caused nothing but mischief. Now I will make you useful to the people. You will feed them, clean them, and clothe them in the future." Sasnakahai's head was chopped into 3 pieces. One piece was thrown to the east, where it became Yucca Bakata. One piece was thrown west, becoming Yucca angustifolia. Yucca angustifolia. The last piece was thrown to the south to become mescal. The nipples became piñon nuts, while 2 pieces of fat cut from around the tail became a bear and a porcupine. The left forepaw, gall, and windpipe were taken as trophies. This is the story about the one they call Rolling Rock, Traveling Rock, or it is also known as Water Monster. Traveling Stone was one of the many Ene, or alien gods. These primordial monsters were born from unnatural sexual practices and grew up to ravage and persecute the Navajo people. Traveling Stone took up residence at BitChute Gaia, the Shining Rock, or at a lake where Tispai points up, an enormous mobile stone. It killed people by hurling itself at them. If it saw someone at a distance, it would set off in pursuit, overtaking them if they stood still, only to turn around and roll over them. Nayatnitsgani planned ahead before coming within range of Traveling Stone. When he approached the Traveling Stone's lair, he took his black knives and planted them in the ground. Then, as he came closer, he planted his blue knives, followed by his yellow knives and his serrated knives at closer intervals. When Traveling Stone saw the monster-slaying hero approach, it immediately started for him, hurling itself at him as though thrown by a giant hand, but it rolled over the knives in the ground, which cut slivers of rock out of its body. These fragments became the different rocks used for pigments, each colored based on where it came from. Stone from Traveling Stone's bones became white rock, his flesh became blue pigment, his hair became black pigment, his mouth and blood red pigment, and his intestines yellow ochre. The moisture from his sweat, mucus, tears, and urine became the wet spots that ooze from the rocks today. Nayatnitsgani fired off a lightning arrow, and Traveling Stone realized it had bitten off more than it could chew. It wheeled around and fled with Nayatnitsgani in pursuit. The hero continued to knock off pieces of Traveling Stone as they raced across the land of the Navajo, leaving characteristic geological deposits behind. In the end, the chase led to the San Juan River, where Traveling Stone dove underwater. Nayatnitsgani continued to head it off and attack it. 3 times he did so, and the 4th time, Traveling Stone was gleaming like fire underwater. It was virtually unrecognizable as the monstrous rock it had once been. "Sawi, my baby darling, take pity on me," it implored Nayatnitsgani. "If you spare me, I will no longer harm your people. I will remain in the rivers. I will keep the mountain springs open and supply your people with fresh water." Nayatnitsgani stayed his hand. "Very well then," said the hero. If you keep this promise, I will spare you, but rest assured that if you ever break it, I will seek you out, and this time I will kill you." Traveling Stone kept his promise. From that day forward, he was the water monster. Tehotzaloti, a soft-furred otter with horns like a buffalo. Tehotzaloti is benevolent and benign. He is everybody's friend. The B'nai Anai, or eye killers, were among the many Anai that were slain by Neat-Netzgani. As with the other original Anai, or alien gods, they were born from human women who had resorted to unnatural practices. Their father was a sour cactus. The B'nai Anai were twins, born at Rock with Black Hole. They were round with a tapering end, no limbs, and depressions that looked like eyes. Their horrified mother abandoned them on the spot, but they survived to grow into monsters. As they were limbless, they remained where they were born. Instead of hunting prey actively, they could fire lightning from their eye sockets and fry anyone who approached them. In time, eyes developed in the depressions on their head, and they could kill with their eyes as long as they kept them open. Magpie was their spy, and they had many children who took after them in the worst way. Neat-Netzgani prepared for his fight with the B'nai Anai by taking a bag of salt with him, and found the old twins in a hogan with their offspring. The monsters immediately started at him, lightning shooting from their bulging eyes, but Neat-Netzgani's armor deflected the beams. He responded by throwing salt into the fire, which spluttered and sparked into their eyes, blinding them. With the B'nai Anai in disarray, Neat-Netzgani waded in and killed all but the two youngest. He took the eyes of the first B'nai Anai as trophies. "If you grew up here, you would only become things of evil," he told the survivors. "But I shall make you useful to my people in years to come." To the older one, he said, "You will warn men of future events and tell them of immediate danger." And it became a screech owl. To the younger, he said, "You will make things beautiful and the earth happy." And it became a whippoorwill. In other versions, the surviving children become a screech owl and an elf owl, while the parents are turned into cacti. So I have one last story here that I want to share with you guys. And I wasn't sure exactly where to place this story into the order, because the Swallow people are not mentioned in the Navajo telling that I was reading to you guys, or in the Apache telling either. So anyway, I wanted to throw this one in there because what it explains here, I think, has a lot to do with these giant mud flows and what looks like melted mountains. The mesas are, there is something to it, okay? And this story explains a little bit about what may have happened. The last great grief, the Swallow people of Mesa Verde. In the age of the gods, there remained the great Swallow people in the Mancos Canyon and beyond. They had been at war ever since the killing of Coyote. The elder brother said, "Mother, grandmother, grandfather, where are the Swallow people to be found?" They told him that they were to be found at a place called Tzoko. Water in the narrow canyon is what that translates to. So he started out and traveled to Jackson Canyon. There were thousands and thousands of swallow people, and he killed them right and left. He killed, and he worked his way to the mouth of Mancos Canyon. Then he began running. He was tired, and there were still thousands to be killed. When he reached the second rock near the San Juan River, he was very tired. At home, in the hogan, all the medicine sticks were seen burning. The younger brother said, "Look, grandmother, all the medicine sticks are burning." First woman said, "Hurry, do as your brother told you to do." So the younger brother took the smoke from the first stick and blew it on the hailstone next to it, and so on for all four. Then he blew the smoke in the four directions. A big black cloud shot out of the sky over the place where the elder brother was resting. A great storm broke, thunder, lightning, rain, and hail. This hail destroyed the remaining swallow people and the lesser giants who lived in the Mesa country. The elder brother caught just one of the swallow people, and he told them that from now on he would be of very little use. "You will be harmless from now on," he said, and let him go. But he took the scalp of one of the dead swallow people and started for his home. On his way, someone ran after him. It was Mother Earth herself. She said, "Grandson, you suffered greatly that time, didn't you?" he said. He said, "Yes, grandmother, I sure did." And she said, "You are in a hurry, but let me sing you this chant." She sang the two chants for the twin brothers. When the elder brother returned to his home with the scalp, the grandmother danced and chanted 4 times as before. Okay, now for the fun part. Let me show you guys some of what I have found here. The first thing I want to show you that I was really excited about, right here, Ramah. If you look here, it almost looks like the silhouette of a man. And Ramah, there's a lot of ancient texts or people that would be considered Ramah. There's a Ramah in the Bible. There's a Ramah in the Hindu epic, the Ramayana. And that is about the Mahabharata. And in my Nagas in the Americas series, I went through a lot of other evidence connecting the Hindu stories to the Native American stories. Similar names, similar encounters. These stories seem to be reappearing over and over again. So I looked up about Ramah, okay? Because this looks like there's an eye here, his nose, his mouth, his chin, okay? And his neck, of course. And you can see like sort of the silhouette. You know, here's his spine and silhouette of his chest, some rib cage still there, you know? And there, it looks like he's writing something actually, and there's a part of the story when he actually rode Hanuman, the monkey god. He actually rode him. Okay, and so this right here, I thought at first looked like a bird. Like this could be the eye, and we have a beak maybe that comes around here, right? But if Ramah actually rode Hanuman, what if this was somehow like a monkey instead? I'm gonna need to look closer at that now, because that is very interesting. That, I mean, because it almost looks like his mouth could come all the way down here, maybe, you know, that could be Hanuman. So I have more research to do on that now. But what's really cool is that in the Hindu stories, I am not going to read more stories to you in this video, okay? I read enough. But in the story of Ramah, he has twin brothers. He has twin brothers, and then after those stories happen, like there's even one story where him and one of those twin brothers had to battle a headless monster. Okay, guys, you can't make this shit up. You just can't. Too much coincidence. And then after they battle that headless monster, he goes on to marry Sita. She gets pregnant, and she has a set of twins. And so now I'm going to look farther into that story. But this is, again, just like I was saying, these sets of twins, it keeps reoccurring. This is something that is, you know, it's, and like even in the Mayan stories, okay, there are several sets of twins. It's not always just one. And, you know, so, and that's usually how it works. It's twins have twins have twins. So of course, if the fathers were twins, you're probably going to have twins. And then when it comes to the bird people, the swallow people, they say that happened right up here by Mancos Canyon. And I have been looking at this whole area for quite a while now. It looks like it could be so many different things, and knowing how these stories go, it probably actually is several things on top of one another. That seems to be the pattern here. But I wanted to point out, like, they talk about this hail and this storm that actually destroyed the rest of the monsters too. Well, then we have those Bible stories that talk about the hot boiling rain that killed the giants. Okay, so here again we have those reoccurring similarities within these stories. And it was really fun to go through so many different stories in this one, because the next video series I'm going to get into explains why this keeps happening. And this part is so exciting, because I'm going to read to you guys from the 12 pyramids of Thoth. And pyramid number 3 is called the Mythology's Pyramid. And he tells us it is that pyramid that projects the myths and legends into this matrix. It's the one responsible for these stories. And he says in it that the great mysteries, and this right here is why I said this, like, I think a year ago, I was saying the great mysteries are the great my stories, okay? The real history is not in the his story. The real stories are the great my stories, okay? Those are our stories, our scripts, our scriptures that we left behind for ourselves to still have this knowledge, these stories there Because when you come back, when you're reincarnated into this matrix, you don't get to bring those with you. You have to forget every time. And so we leave behind these scripts for ourselves to eventually figure these things out. And so he explains how the great mysteries are the myths and legends of the creation of humanity. And there are certain aspects woven into each story, which is why these specific details keep reoccurring over and over again. As always, thanks for watching. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Make sure that bell is ringing so you'll be notified when my next video comes out. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you would like to support this channel, there are several links listed down below, and be sure to go check us out on the social media sites as well. Until next time.